We're live.
Welcome and good evening. Hello, my name is Abiodun Rashawn Banjo, and I'll be the facilitator for this virtual meeting. I serve as the FSL Field Support Liaison, working with all 25 high schools across Queens North districts. In my role, I support principals and schools with operational issues, including budgeting and issues concerning safety and security. I am also the district's representative for the state's MBK initiative, working with young men across high schools in our district. Before we get started, I want to announce that Mr. Eduardo Duarte will be our Spanish interpreter using a separate telephone line. We will now announce instructions in Spanish for attendees who may wish to dial into the Spanish interpretation line at this time. Oh, excuse me. Please dial. Eduardo, is that you? Hello? Anybody hear me?
I can hear you. Eduardo, you're on mute.
Ahora mismo vamos a entregarles a ustedes el número de teléfono, el cual tienen que llamar para escuchar la reunión en español. El número para llamar es el 347-966-4114. Hay que entrar el PIN número 818852. 14 numeral. Esta información también se encuentra debajo de la descripción del video.
Once again, my name is Abiodun Rashawn Banjo, and I'm your facilitator for this teleconference this evening. Thank you for joining this meeting, which is being held via teleconference due to the impact of COVID-19. I will provide details on how tonight's teleconference meeting will work. I will also be available throughout this teleconference to answer any technical questions that may arise or to help any participant who may experience technical difficulties. All participants will be able to participate via YouTube live stream for those who wish to ask questions or provide feedback. You can do so by using the YouTube chat window during our meeting. If you're asking your question or marking a statement in Spanish, it will be read. Oh, excuse me. It will be translated in English. Now that I have shared how the teleconference will work, I will now turn it over to our superintendent, Ms. Elaine Lindsey, to begin the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Biden. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elaine Lindsey, high school superintendent. Thank you very much for joining us on this teleconference community meeting. We appreciate your willingness to participate with us in this new structure. Our goal is to honor our commitment to engaging with families and the community in a way that also respects the current public mandates. We are holding this meeting as an opportunity to provide information to parents around district staff, reintroducing district staff, and answering parent questions. Representative members from the district office are present on this teleconference. At this time, I would like to turn it over to my deputy superintendent for her to briefly introduce herself and the district team members.
Thank you, Superintendent Lindsey. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elaine Gibson, and I am the Deputy Superintendent for Queens North under the leadership of Superintendent Elaine Lindsey. My role as Ms. Lindsey's Deputy Superintendent is to support in actualizing of the superintendent's mission, vision, and goals for the district. At this time, I'd like to take a moment just to do a quick round of introductions. First, I'd like to introduce Cheryl Ann Gill, Director of Advanced Academic Access. Ms. Gill's primary role is to be a liaison between the Superintendent's Office and the DOE's Office of Equity and Access, otherwise known as OEA. Ms. Gill works specifically with AP for All and Lead Hire. She also facilitates the ELA Critical Friends Group and is the coordinator for My Sister's Keeper, MSK. Next, we have Jenny V. Fajardo, Teacher Development and Evaluation Coach. Ms. Fajardo works as the Teacher Development and Evaluation Coach to support the NYC DOE Teacher Evaluation System and its policies. Additionally, she works to support school leaders with deepening their knowledge and understanding of the Danielson Framework for Teaching rubric. We also have Rosemarie Jahoda, Director of Mathematics. Ms. Jahoda collaborates with principals, assistant principals, and teachers to optimize their mathematics learning experiences for your children. Her responsibilities include providing targeted support to schools and facilitating the critical friends groups of assistant principals supervising mathematics. William J. Doyle, Director of Continuous Improvement. Mr. Doyle works directly with school principals and the leadership teams in order to review, monitor, and provide targeted support to schools in need and to ensure consistent instructional support. David Swift, Family Leadership Coordinator, FLC. Mr. Swift continues to support the work related to parent leadership, community engagement, and providing guidance for developing family involvement and leadership at the school and district levels. He'll also be moderating the chat tonight. Eduardo Duarte, Family Support Coordinator. Mr. Duarte serves as the single point of contact for all family issues and inquiries that cannot be resolved at the school level. Mr. Duarte also tracks the progress of individual cases to conclusion while providing updates to families as necessary in collaboration with Superintendent Lindsey's team and other various DOE offices, principals, parent coordinators, and the school community. Dr. Howard Quaid, Director of Data Management. Dr. Quaid serves in the role of the district's Director of Data Management and supports school leaders in data acquisition and analysis, short-term and long-term planning assistance, in addition to facilitating the New and Novice Principals Institute. Sharif Rucker, Director of Culture and Climate. Mr. Rucker serves in the capacity of Director of Culture and Climate and supports schools in developing systems and activities that create a nurturing environment where all voices are heard. Mr. Rucker also interfaces with community-based organizations to support schools in their social emotional learning activities. And Sheridan Johnston, Administrative Assistant. Ms. Johnson serves in the capacity of the admin assistant for the Queens North Superintendent's Office by supporting the district team. At this time, we will transition to the Q&A session, but before we move to the discussion portion of the meeting, I'd like to address several questions that were submitted prior to this meeting. I will start that now. The first question, why were there no response from the DOE to the article in the press about Cardozo fights? Responses to any media article or inquiry comes directly from the press office. However, school leadership ensured communication to the school community once an investigation and accurate account of the situation was provided. What is the SCA plan, School Construction Authority plan, to build more high schools to alleviate the overcrowding in most Queens high schools that are operating beyond capacity and at very high utilization rates? The SCA is currently in the process of moving forward with a new high school building on the Northern Boulevard at the old Sports Center. This is one project in line of continued conversations and search for more space for Queens high schools. Why is the Office of Pupil Transportation so horrible? No response, no customer service team, a complete disaster. How can we completely overhaul that office? Well, the answer to that question is the Office of Pupil Transportation is responsible for providing transportation for eligible students to and from schools. Families can also contact OPT at this number, 718-392-8855, or by sending an email to pupiltransportationteam@schools.nyc.gov. Other transportation inquiries, such as routes and schedules, can be addressed at the student's school or in the student's New York City Schools account. We will continue to escalate issues and concerns as they arise. Why can't certain high schools have a speech therapist on staff? My child has been without a therapist or RCA since September. We didn't even receive an RSA for this past summer for ESY. A speech therapist was identified at this particular school and hired, and the start date is to be determined. The next question. Can you tell us how a high school can help a student with an IEP who is lacking in executive functioning and self-determination skills to develop those needed skills to move on to college or career? How is this appropriate for a student with a disability when the law guarantees more than just a diploma? So the answer to this question, as this is a specific question that needs to be reviewed with the student's IEP and building leadership, I ask that this parent please contact the Family Support Coordinator, Eduardo Duarte, so we can gather additional information and arrange for a meeting with the school's leadership. What is the protocol for social workers in high schools, especially the new ones who are hired to do more than classroom observations and social history evaluations? How can a parent engage one to speak to that person, especially when their child is in crisis? Social worker responsibilities are clearly outlined by the DOE and is followed across schools. As this is a school-specific issue, please reach out to our Family Support Coordinator, Eduardo Duarte, so we can escalate to the school and get some support. Now that the DOE has extra funding from state and federal programs for the next 3 years, with all those programs that were cut at will all those programs that were cut at different schools be restored? At Townsend Harris, our QC Bridge program was cut due to budget shortfall during pandemic in 2020. The answer to that question, all schools were provided funding and held harmless this school year. Supports for schools with scheduling and effectively allocating funds was provided by the borough and district offices. The additional DOE funding for QC was not renewed this year. Therefore, the school was supported with using their funds to continue the program. How will this year's high school admissions process and requirements be different from last year, in which the pandemic forced changes? We understand that families are anxious to receive updates about the high school application process, especially around the timeline and screening criteria. Unfortunately, we do not have any updates to share at this time. Please rest assured that when more information is available and the application period opens, families will be given the same amount of time as in years past to complete the application. Additional inquiries regarding enrollment can also be forwarded to the Office of Enrollment through the DOE. What will happen if numbers keep growing in schools? The answer to that is, as schools continue to grow, it will be monitored. All issues concerning space is handled by the Space and Planet Unit from the DOE. Can you address the violence in Cardozo and what the DOE is doing to mitigate it? There are four safety officers for 3,500 kids, and that did not change after the violence made the New York Post. We have been in constant communication with the Senior Director of Office Safety and Youth Development, Mark Rampasant, with this concern and for support at Cardozo. Can the DOE review how high school bathrooms are monitored? The answer to that is safety and security are important to all of us. Our culture and climate team will continue to work with all schools to ensure a safe environment and address any direct school concerns. Schools based on staffing will develop safety plans to ensure student safety and well-being in the halls and in bathrooms. Parents with school-specific concerns should reach out to the school's principal to discuss their safety protocols. The next question. I conducted a survey at Townsend Harris freshmen parents on their interest in adding Chinese language to the foreign language department and received 70+ parents interested and met with the SLT in September, but faced resistance. So the answer to this question, how can you get help from the superintendent's office for funding assistance for the program? And how can you convince the leader to support adding a Chinese language program? This is a conversation for the SLT. Decisions regarding course offerings happen at the school level. School budgets are provided directly to schools. The superintendent's office does not provide funding to schools. The mayor is considering eliminating borough preference for high school admissions. Since Queens high schools are so overcrowded, applicants in Queens should be given preference over applicants from other boroughs. How to ensure Queens applicants are guaranteed seats in Queens high schools. This is a conversation that has been raised to the current administration and presented to the incoming mayor. Francis Lewis is severely overcrowded. Although an annex is being completed, it makes a small dent to relieve overcrowding. What else can be done to relieve overcrowding in District 26 schools? Overcrowding for schools is being reviewed by Space and Planning with conversations for additional high school seats in Queens. Can schools provide Chinese language program? The answer, this is a discussion for the school's SLT. When will masks be optional like most restaurants? The DOE is following CDC guidelines. We await directives regarding any changes in the mask requirements in schools. Live questions and responses begins, and Mr. David Swift will moderate the chat via the YouTube chat. Any questions so far?
No questions in the chat so far.
Eduardo, can you see if,
No questions in the Spanish interpretation line.
okay. So we'll wait a few minutes. If there are no questions, we will conclude the meeting. Any questions, David? No questions? Okay, we'll wait a few more minutes. Eduardo, do we have any questions from our Spanish-speaking parents?
No, but we do have a comment that there are only 5 people watching the live stream. How could we better advertise these live streams? So the flyer was sent out to school principals and parent coordinators a week ago, but I think we should start looking at other ways to advertise this in the community. Maybe taking up a small ad in the Queen's Parent magazine. We're welcome to suggestions.
So we'll explore other ways to do better communicate this and get the information out to the parents. We know that in the past, when we used this platform, we had tremendous response from parents. So I'm not sure if this could possibly be competing events that has caused the low turnout, but we will certainly explore other ways to inform our parents to ensure a larger participation from the audience. Okay, so if we don't have any questions from the parents who are on here, we're going to conclude. I want to thank you all for participating tonight, for the questions, for the dialogue, and for your patience. We're planning additional meetings through the superintendent's office. We will definitely explore other ways to get the word out. We certainly welcome any input from the parents who are on. Please feel free to reach out with any suggestions to our family support team, Eduardo Duarte or David Swift. If you have any immediate questions that you were not able to ask or weren't comfortable to ask at this time, and you would like to ask them, please feel free to email again our family support people, Eduardo Duarte at Duarte, Duarte at schools.nyc.gov, or our family leadership coordinator, David Swift at Swift, DSWIF as in Frank T at schools.nyc.gov, or you may call the office at 718-281-3517. Again, we want to thank you for your participation, and we look forward to the next event. Everyone have a great evening.